It's the Northwoods Ferry here, and today I'm going to do a Reddit or just scary stories that I found for fans only. I had mentioned in one of my videos that I haven't even posted yet that I was going to do this, but I seen in my suggested feed and in my suggested videos of people reading scary stories from fans only, like, gone wrong. And I had recently found out not recently, but I didn't know what fans only was until I found out a friend of mine was doing it, and I don't judge, so I was like, whatever. But this is pretty scary. Some of these stories are pretty scary. I wasn't able to find one that I thought was, I don't know, we'll see. And I have a scary story for you I will tell you about. I've had some pretty crazy experiences in my lifetime. I can tell you a couple of my own along with this. So, this one, I believe, is on Reddit. Yeah, this is Reddit. Okay, so it says here, posted my nudes anonymously and received a death threat from someone convinced I was his ex-girlfriend. In quotations, I'm not. Contacted Reddit about the issue and they said his death threat did not violate their content policy. So I guess it has to do with Reddit too. I don't know if it's just Reddit or if it's fans only or both. But I'm gonna give it a chance here. So hopefully it's okay to post here. I scrubbed my profile of NSFW pictures, and for reasons that will become obvious as you read on, will not be posting again on Reddit. My goal is for Reddit's admins to take this and any similar situation seriously. If I continued posting, he was threatening to stab his ex. I contacted her to warn her. Haven't heard from her, but hopefully she is not now more on guard. So, it begins about a year ago. I began to feel extremely self-conscious about my body and my inability to lose my postpartum baby weight. At the time, my husband and I switched from hormonal birth control to condoms, and my libido went through the roof. I created this account soon after to look at NSFW subreddits for some alone time fun. It was bolstering to see so many women with similar shape and size to me being adored, and I sort of felt like it might be something I'd like to do. With my husband's blessing, I started posting nudes. None with my face or identifying features, and I purposely kept my location vague. It was very validating, and for many, many months, everything went swimmingly. Enter the creep. At first, he just awarded one of my posts and graciously accepted my thanks. For many months, I did not hear anything from him. Now he has become convinced that I am his ex, regardless of any logical argument I tried to make. Does she also have the same surgery scars as I have? A prominent mole in the same place? Is she the same age as me? I looked her up and I doubted. So, my eyes are getting dry. I think I'm way older than she is. He wouldn't be convinced and told me my posts are breaking up marriages. I sincerely hope this isn't true, and I've heard nothing from angry or bereft spouses, so I just truly don't know. message using Reddit's report system. 2 breathless days later, I received a canned response stating that they have reviewed his messages and they don't violate Reddit's Reddit's content policy. Not only that, but Reddit has seemingly removed all way to contact an actual human who runs this site. It's just a giant list of topics now, none of which include the word violence. Okay, so I'm gonna skip this, what she's talking about. Basically, this guy wouldn't leave her alone, and she was starting to get scared. Let's see if I know what I can find. I found other ones here. Wow. Some of it is pretty scary. There were other ones that I had seen here. Let me look for a second here, okay? Okay, this one to me seems a bit creepy. It's not the creepiest one that I've heard, because I did listen to a few videos where they were animated and stuff like that. This one is a bit scary, but not as scary as some of the other ones I've read. So, a university student has shared a frightening experience claiming she was stalked after posting content on adult site OnlyFans. The anonymous 20-year-old shared her story on Reddit, explaining she finally felt safe enough to speak up after reporting the incident to the police. I wonder if this is the same one. But anyways, the woman said she was staying with her parents over the summer holidays and first felt uneasy after she took her new puppy outside to use the toilet about 2 a.m. and spotted a car parked out front of her house. I saw a figure in the car and could tell they were looking at me, but I couldn't make out their face because it was pitch black outside. She wrote, "Feeling a bit uneasy, I picked up my puppy to take him inside. And when I started to move, the car parked in my driveway. I sprinted back inside and locked the door, but they never approached my house. The next morning, the woman said she found an envelope inside her letterbox with her OnlyFans username written on it and $20 cash inside. OnlyFans is a subscription-based content service which is mostly used for sharing adult content. So the woman didn't tell her parents what happened. She said she didn't have any problems with the site until she posted an Amazon wish list on her account. Amazon doesn't release your address to people who gift your items, but third-party sellers can, and that's where I went wrong," she explained. So ladies, if you do that, or men, or whatever, I'm just learning about this, really. This is crazy. A week after the incident, the woman moved back to her college town and stopped posting content on the website, but her stalker tracked her down. Where the story gets weird. After the incident, she decided to start a YouTube account because fans OnlyFans felt unsafe and she was planning to vlog a shopping trip where her camera was stolen. When her camera was stolen. When I got to my car, it had been ransacked and my vlogging camera was missing. I know it's my fault for leaving it in my car, but I was using it the night before, and since I live in a gated area, I didn't think I would be unsafe, the woman wrote. She explained the camera was out of sight in her glove box and contained an SD card with unreleased photos and videos on it. This is where the story gets weird, she wrote. The person watched me sleep for an hour. Now that is something that would really creep me out because I used to have night terrors and I had some issues from some things, and that is just creepy. Alright? You should never be, you don't, no, I'd freak out. Yeah, okay. The woman said she asked to see the security cameras monitoring her building, and what she saw was truly frightening. Not only did she see a man break into her car and ignore other cars in the parking lot, but she also had proof she was being targeted. After they got the camera, they walked around the duplex until stopping near my window. My bedroom faces an outside street and my blinds are broken, so it's very easy to see in. I have a curtain, but it doesn't cover my window all the way. This person watched me sleep for an hour or so. I have no idea why they didn't try to break in, but thank God they didn't, she wrote. The woman explained her camera was later recovered at a secondhand store, but the SD card was missing. She has since moved and hopes her stalker hasn't followed her. I believe the police are still trying to track them down, but I haven't broken my lease and moved to a new place, so hopefully that will keep me safe, the woman wrote. Wow. Alright, let's look for another one. Okay, these are shorter ones where they were recognized in public. Some of them are women and some of them, I think there's one that's a man. So the first one is recently I had a new client who adamantly said she knew my voice. She keeps bringing it up every week, asking if I have done radio podcasts or voiceover work. She jokes that she'll get to the bottom of the mystery somehow. I make erotic audio for women and built up a pretty solid following during lockdowns last year. I checked my Patreon subs and she subscribed to me 9 months ago. I honestly am just waiting for the penny to drop. Another one. I was out at dinner and this kid who couldn't have been more than 20 years old was at the restaurant with his mom. He kept eyeing my cousin, a creator, and he probably didn't want to mention to his mom where he recognized her from. Eventually, my cousin and the mom were in the bathroom, and the mom nicely asked my cousin to take a picture with her kid, and she agreed if only mom knew. Yeah, I don't think mom would like that very much. This one's kind of funny, but still, I'd be creeped out. I was in a public bathroom at a urinal. I could see the guy next to me recognized me but couldn't quite place me. He looked a couple times at my face. He then glanced down and suddenly yelled my username. Eek. Once when I was visiting Dallas, a guy came up to me and said he recognized me by my shirt. the shirt I was wearing. I had worn the shirt in a public nudity shoot I did. It was creepy because after he said hi, he followed me around the mall. I managed to lose him in a Forever 21. These aren't particularly the most scary, so I'm just gonna read one more and I'm gonna find some scary. I'm gonna try to find scarier ones. I was recognized once on the subway into work. The guy didn't come up to me, but sent me a message later saying, "Hey, I saw you on the train." Later, he came up to me in the lobby of the building. Apparently, he works in the same building. TBH, it freaked me out a lot, but thankfully nothing bad ever came of it. Okay, so let's see what else I can find here, and eventually I'll tell you my scary story. Mine is not of, being on one of these sites. Like I said, I'm not judging. Mine was a man that I've been stalked before, and I've also had a weird experience of a pedophile who was convicted, and it's an interesting story, so if you stick around to the end and you don't fall asleep, then you'll get to hear my story. And it is something that to this day, well, actually I'll tell two. I have probably more than that of creepy ones, but these two stick out in my mind. So if you stick around, I will tell you about that after I find some more creepy stalker stories. You all be careful out there, and hold on one second. This one is kind of scary. I think I'd be scared if it happened to me or to someone I knew. So this one is called The Subway Stalker, and it's from Reddit. A little backstory. I'm a 20-year-old short, petite female working at Subway, and I can't help it. I can't help but be nice to anyone, even if they creep me out. I feel bad usually. About a year ago, we had this guy, 35 to 40 years old, who would come in every day for lunch. He was fascinated by my stretched ears and few piercings I had on my face, and always asked questions. He would sit down after I rang him out and watch me from his table for 2 hours. Non-stop, just staring at me while I helped other customers. This goes on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask for my number, saying he has plugs and tunnels he wants to give me, and see me wearing them in my ears, and I always politely declined. That is so creepy. It sounds like he was trying to find a way to get, to know her, but I mean, sometimes you gotta think about what you say. Okay, so one day I'm alone in the store because my manager had to run to the bank. We were really slow that day, so I was just in the back room messing around on my phone. I heard the door chime, looked up, and yet no one was there. Then I saw the man walk past the front of the store really quickly, like he was in a hurry. The store phone rings. Me. Thanks for calling, Subway. How can I help you? Him. This is the girl with the nice ears, right? Me. Yes, who is this? Him. Are you alone in the back room right now? Are you working by yourself? Give me 1 second here. At this point, I really got creeped out and knew it was him. I hung up and texted my manager the situation so she would hurry back. That just reminded me of something, sorry. I see him standing by my car and looking inside of it. I was an idiot and left a back door unlocked. When we're young, that age, sometimes it happens. I watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in my effing back seat. And God knows what to backseat, and I don't think she spelled this right. The creep was trying to hide in my effing backseat and do God knows what to me when I got in. So only God knows what he was gonna do to her, basically, is what she was trying to say, I think. My manager locked the front door of our store and called the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of my car, and he was arrested. On him was a butcher knife, rope, and a rag with chloroform on it. Oh my gosh. That is creepy. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would have probably be dead right now. That is very scary. Okay, so I think I'm gonna read another one, and I don't know if it's any good. Let me see here. Never meet your neighbors. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to read another one, or if I'm gonna tell you two of my scary stories. Okay, that last one reminded me, it's a bit scary. If you think about it, I mean, yeah, you have to be nice in customer service, and sometimes people take that the wrong way, and things happen. Okay, let's read one more. I'm gonna say this is called Never Meet Your Neighbors, from an unknown Redditor. When I first moved into a new place in a new town, I had left home one evening and accidentally left my garage door open. Texted my husband to tell him so he could go home and close it. When he gets there and tells me it's not open, that's strange, but okay. The next day, I'm taking my trash out, and my neighbor was outside. He introduced himself and told me that the night before he noticed me leaving, and I left the garage door open. So he went inside and closed it, and let himself out through the front door, only locking the doorknob lock. Then he sent me a Facebook friend request. I'm assuming he looked at mail on my counter to find out my full name. Yeah, that's not cool. After this, he wrote me poems and taped them to my door, left gifts on the front porch, made crazy Facebook posts about a woman he was in love with, who was forbidden. In parentheses, she put, I'm married. One Saturday night, I came home really late, and I was finishing my cigarette outside of my garage. Before going in, he was sitting outside in a chair, blistering drunk. He approached me and started talking about someone named George. I had no idea what he was going on about, and confused. I asked him if he had company. He walked into the garage and came out with a box containing George. George was his stepdad, and he was dead. The ashes were in the box. Oh my gosh, guys. He caught wind of a trip I was going on via Facebook and invited himself along. I politely explained that I'm married days later, I had gone on a walk with my husband and we left through the garage, leaving the door open. He messaged me on Facebook and told me he left a gift for me in my garage. When I got back, I found a bunch of camping gear inside of a giant Easter egg. After I got back from the trip, he showed up at our door at midnight, drunk and banging on the door. We moved, and that is the end of that one. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute and I'm just going to pause it so you won't even know, but I'll be right back. Okay guys, so now this is going to be the finale. Okay, so I told you I was going to tell you guys stories about things that have happened to me. These are just two of them that stick out in my mind. I think everybody or every woman, even guys, have creepy things that have happened to them. It's not the creepiest. The ones I'm telling you aren't the creepiest things in the world. There were worse. But I think for the sake of this, I'm just gonna stick with one that was pretty creepy, or two. So the first thing is I had to start sleeping with my bedroom door locked or shut, or if it didn't have a lock, I would take a butter knife, and there's a trick, and it will ruin your frame, but I would stick it in the frame because I couldn't. And if there's a window, it has to be locked, and no one can look in. And one of the reasons for that is because I was almost robbed. I was living with an ex-boyfriend when I was younger, and we had roommates. They were basically his friends, and nobody was home but me and him. I was half asleep, and I'm one of those people. I'm not a very good sleeper. I am not a deep sleeper. I wake up like that most of the time. And so I was in a half-wake, half-dream state, and my boyfriend at the time next to me was sleeping. And we shared the room, obviously, so I was half asleep, half awake, and I knew I had to get up, and about, at sometime soon, my alarm would go off, and I'd have to go take a shower and get ready for work. We lived in an old apartment building. It was actually a historic building, so everything was really old. We lived in a good neighborhood, but it was surrounded by bad neighborhoods. The houses around us were rich, but we weren't rich or anything. The neighborhoods around it were pretty bad neighborhoods. A lot of crime and everything. So I got up one day, that day, first I was sleeping. Okay, I was half asleep, in that half sleep, half awake dream state. And I noticed our bed was right by the door, and I was sleeping right by the door. And I noticed, the door open, and someone, looked through, and I didn't see who it was. My rational mind wanted to believe it was our roommate, but I also, even in my dream state, asked myself, why would they do that? Why would one of my roommates open the door and look in and then slowly shut it? But since I still had time to sleep, I was still, half asleep, and I was just laying there. So when my alarm goes off, and I think that must have been about 15 minutes later, I get up and I go to turn the shower on in the bathroom, and there's a guy with the door propped open. He was tall. I believe he was a tall white teenager, really tall though. and he seen me, and luckily he was just as scared as I was, because it could have went bad, where it could have turned from him, I seen him and they were gonna rob us, to, or whatever, to, you seen me, so now I'm gonna hurt you. And that affected me for a long time. The fact that I was half asleep, and sometimes I have trouble moving my body when I'm in that dream state. I get sleep paralysis a lot, or I used to. I only get it once in a while now, but I've had it since my teenage years, I believe. And that's what makes it even scarier for me, is the fact that someone could, come in and look in, and what if I was unable to move? So they tried, we told the roommates we need to lock the doors, because honestly it was just as stupid as they didn't ever lock the doors. So we started locking the doors, because this was an old building and there's a door you can go in through the building, and then there's the doors from the outside, kind of like a fire escape. I don't know if it was a fire escape, but it was like if it once was, and they turned it into stairs. I don't even think it was a fire escape. I think it was just the back door led out. Like each apartment had stairs that led down. So I go and I look by the window and I see, there's a white guy, and I believe there was a black guy or a Mexican guy. Not, just that's what they were, and they were wearing the same things. They were the same heights, and they got into the car. One of them was by the car, and the other one, the one that had the door open, he ran to the car, and I looked out the window and I called the police, and I was like, holy crap, holy crap. That's not the only time I've ever been robbed. I mean, I've been in a house that was robbed, but after that incident, I've lived in bad areas, so after that incident, it was more of an eye-opener for me too. I always kept my doors locked. My bedroom door had to be shut. Now I have a weapon, so in the woods you kind of need one. There's bears up here. Like, I was sitting outside one time and I looked across the road and there was a bear walking. So, you kind of need them up here. And not saying that I'll be able to react that fast, but it does make me feel better when my husband's not around and stuff like that. But now it's put up, so we gotta lock the door again, I guess, because my daughter, but she's in our playpen when she sleeps and she can't get out. But anyways, so that whole experience made it so that I had to keep my door shut and locked, and the windows a certain way. And I'm surprised that I've changed a little bit, because with the sleep paralysis dreams, there's times where I thought that I might have been being watched or robbed, but I actually, think it was just a dream. So then the second one I'm going to tell you, this actually happened before that. This was when I was much younger. I was very young. I was about 19 not everyone there had a mental disorder in all the buildings. It was just, there were quite a few of them. And some of them were super friendly, and some of them were like calling him every day, saying, like there was this one lady that would call him every day and be like, there's water in my fridge. Is it just condensation? And he would tell her, reassure her nicely, it's just condensation. But she would call super early, and it was really annoying. And then she would call about other things, and she would ask rhetorical questions. But the scary part is, there was this man, and he was super, super pale. Now, I can get pale, so. But he got more pale than I could ever get. And basically, my ex had told me he had a bad feeling about him because he had went to criminal justice, and he had, learned a lot of things in the academy, so he was looking for a job in the field. So he told me he had a bad feeling about this guy, and he was right. So this guy, every time my ex had to go do a walkthrough through the buildings in the morning and at night, and he had to answer to any complaints, and he had to try to fix things in people's apartments. Well, my ex, there was this guy, like I said, he was really, really, really white. He had white hair. Not like gray, just white, and he looked like a Santa Claus. I'm not trying to be mean, but this is scary for me. This was an eye-opener for me. It reminds me of how naive I was when I was younger. So, we would encounter him, and he would stop, and he would try to start conversation with my ex, and he thought for some reason that my ex was my father, and I don't think he looked like my dad, or was even old enough. So, and he would stare at me, and when we would walk past him, my ex said he would catch him staring at me. And I kind of just blew it off because I was young, and when you're young as a woman, I think sometimes you get used to guys looking at you, so you kind of just look straight ahead, which probably is not the smartest thing to do, actually, as a grown woman now. I definitely am going to teach my daughter to have her eyes peeled and not to be naive the way that I was. I mean, just because you don't want to, see that all these men are looking at you doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aware of a danger. And that goes for boys and men too. You have to be careful too. So anyways, he was always staring at me, and he tried to start conversations with my ex. He tried talking to me when I was alone while my ex had left me in one of the buildings to do something. I can't remember what it was, but he tried to start a conversation with me, and I felt really uncomfortable, but I wasn't afraid. I was actually taking martial arts at the time. I wasn't really that good yet. As some of you may know, I just had a baby, a year ago, and I lift weights, and I'm trying, probably don't look that great, trying to stay strong. Well, I wasn't strong like I was then, and he probably, both of us would have gotten hurt. Who knows what would have happened. It's a scary situation. So the guy, when he was talking to my ex one time, he had mentioned that he had guns and that he was prepared for anything, and if cops ever came in his apartment, and I think he was trying to end something to my ex. If anybody ever went in his apartment, he was ready, if they ever came to get him, or just, he was bragging about having guns and weapons, and he would have a standoff if he had to, and he had weapons that could, he found it very disturbing. So, one day he was cleaning out the basement because people were not keeping their items in their caged areas. Everyone had their own storage area. There was a bin, and this bin was filled with, for the sake of, I really hope that this is something that if you're a child, your parent gives you permission to watch or to listen to, but it is something I think, people need to be aware of. So there was a bin in the basement, and we had no idea whose it was, but my ex had to look inside of it because it was not in the designated area, and it was his job. And the man, the owners told him, you need to look in it, you need to put a note on it that says, whoever's this is, you need to claim it or it's getting thrown away. So my ex looked into it, and it was a whole bin filled with different kinds of sexual toys, basically dildos, to be specific, from what he told me. Sorry, I have bugs in here, and I don't know, I think mosquitoes. So it was a bin, like a garbage bin or something. Like it was shaped like a plastic garbage bin filled with dildos, and my ex was like, what the heck, who the heck, this is some kind of a joke, nobody's gonna claim it, I'm gonna have to throw this away. So he puts the note on it, and sure enough, who claims it? I don't even know why he would claim it, because why would you want anyone to know that, right? So he claimed it and put it in his storage shed. Now, another thing, I didn't really think anything of it other than, what the heck is he doing with it? Like, why would he have that? I was just so naive. My ex also pointed out something when we were hanging out. He had a garage that he bought at the, or that he also had one that he had to work out of at the apartment buildings, and he noticed his patterns of what he would do. I don't know if this man worked, but he would come back, he would be having a camera in his hand. He always had a camera, like he was filming something. So my ex noticed it, and he asked him one day, because we caught him, we were by his building and about to go in and do a run through, when he came with the camera, and he said hello, and my ex was like, what's with the camera, what do you do, are you a photographer? And he said, oh, I go down by the lake, because I lived by Lake Michigan, like right, the city I lived in was right off of Lake Michigan. And he said he would go take pictures around Lake Michigan and stuff like that. And my ex was like, of what? And he was like, stuff that is interesting and stuff like that. So my ex did not believe him at all. Then there was this time where my ex had to go into the apartment, and he did not give notice. He had to go in there, and it was an emergency, and I don't remember the exact details. But basically, when he went in there, he said, and this is pretty graphic, and he said that there was a statue of a woman with a child, and they were naked, and the woman was kissing her child. They girls' underwears, like, all over the place. Little girls, like, children, like 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, young girls. And he said that there were, at the time, Hannah Montana and Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. He had all these pictures of these celebrities that were young. Lindsay Lohan. He had pictures that looked sexual of Mary-Kate and Ashley, Hannah Montana. He had Hannah Montana everywhere. He had pictures of little girls everywhere, and he had surveillance cameras, I think, and he had a lot of weapons. My ex said he did have a lot of weapons, I believe, but I don't remember where they were or how he seen them. I think they were just in the living room, because these were small apartments. He's seen a lot of disturbing things, light shades in the shape of naked children. I don't know, he just said it was really disturbing for him, and he was a father of girls, young daughters. So he was very, very disturbed, but he couldn't say anything because he was supposed to give notice before going in there. So after that, we were like, this guy is a creep, and my ex was like, I want you to be really careful. You need to start paying attention, and I have to, when my daughters come to visit, I have to, make sure they know too, and be very careful. He said, I think that you can take them, because I was doing karate, but I don't know. It's just because you're doing martial arts or something doesn't mean anything. It's just, he did martial arts too, so he had this confidence in me. So then, we talked, we mentioned it to each other, that we had a feeling he was going to get caught at some point in time. Something was gonna happen. And the guy, after my ex went into the apartment, it was like he knew, obviously, and he kept on making comments that if the police came, he was gonna have a standoff and he was gonna kill all of them. And it's like if he was bragging and he was trying to fit in or have something to talk about or something. Now the creepy part for me, after all of that, knowing all of that. Okay, so my ex, we got back late one night, and he had to do some things before he went in and did a walk through all the apartments. He would just walk through and check everything, and so he told me to go wait inside because I believe it was cold outside and snowing. He said, go wait and sit at those steps, because there was the upstairs steps, and then there was stairs to the basement. He said, go sit there where I can, see you, or you're close to the door, because the doors were glass or plexiglass. So I was sitting there, and I was just looking on my phone, but not really paying attention like I should have been. And my ex came in, and so did the guy, and I just kind of figured that they had ended up coming in at the same time. Well, it turns out that my ex, after we got away from him and got into another building, he said, you need to pay attention to what's going on around you. He was staring. He was in the bushes, because there was the door, and then there was another glass I wanted to see how long he would stare, and I was there, so I knew you'd be safe. And he said that he was staring for at least 15-20 minutes, just staring at me, touching the glass, and and I didn't notice. I didn't see him. I didn't notice. Maybe I was tired or just wasn't paying attention, or maybe the angle from the bottom, the top of the bottom steps, it being awkward. I mean, I could have looked, but I didn't really think of it. But he was staring, and it was for 15 to 20 minutes, and that is when I realized I do really need to start paying attention. And then, to end it all, a couple years later, me and my ex had broken up, and we were still friends at the time. And in the newspaper, it ended up that he got caught, and I recognized his name and his face, and it was all over the news on Facebook. It was in the newspaper, and his mugshot, his name, and it said that he had been, they found him looking up child pornography on the internet, and that's how they caught him. And it's possible that he did find some children and do something and hurt some children. They're not sure, and to this day I don't know if they'll ever know, and I'll get to that in a second. So basically, on the videos he was taking footage of, he was recording mothers playing with their children, holding their children, kissing their children. That's all he recorded, was mothers and babies, mothers and children. And in the back of his trunk, the police found duct tape, they found rope, they found all kinds of, I think they found dildos, I think they found stuff basically that is kind of odd to have, especially knowing when you know these things about him. He was convicted, and he ended up getting killed in prison. So that is something that will always stick out in my mind, and I won't mention his name because I don't know if the man has any family or anything like that. It just the whole thing is really creepy to think about. So that is my story of something creepy like that. I'm really lucky that I didn't live in those apartments by myself. And when I did live in apartments by myself, I didn't really have experiences too bad like that. But yeah, so that's my story. I still kind of am shocked thinking about it sometimes, because when I go to tell people, I kind of wonder, I have a lot of stories, a lot of interesting life stories, and I wonder if people think I'm making it up, because, I mean, it's a lot of weird things that have happened to me, things like that, and other things, too. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed these stories. They were meant to be fans only or Reddit stories. I'm going to put them as fans only and Reddit, or scary stories in general. So if you like this, please let me know. And if this is not your thing, I just hope that you guys don't watch it. I'll put a disclaimer, obviously. I'm sure someone would have stopped